how did you end up with that idea to go to Africa and start working in that local community?
And we actually had to sit down and ask ourselves, why are we arranging a football school in Tanzania for children? And I'm like, why the fuck am I waking up early Monday morning to go to KP and dance?
I am gonna help people who help people. Oh, since you're in the hot chair, what is your why? Hello and welcome to another pilot podcast. My name is Chris. Tonight I'm going to be your host, and sitting across me is Johan from Team 29. He's a first-year student and has also had an interesting journey in Africa. And what we're going to be talking tonight is going to be about traveling and learning. So without further ado, welcome, Johan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Johan, and I'm 24 years old. And I'm a local guy here from Aarhus, and I applied for the KP last year, and I got in. And I've been on this journey for the past 10 months, and it seems like a never-ending journey at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much the first year feels like that.
It does, yeah.
So walking into KAOSPILOT, what did you find? How did it feel?
A special place, both in the meaning of good, but also in the meaning of bad, and a place that you very much have to land in.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I've had landed yet, but I'm trying to. And it's also a place, like when I'm talking about the team, like 38 totally different people, and each with like a unique skill or a unique reason to be at the KP. And it's like sculpting a team that's also very difficult and very interesting.
Yeah. And how do you feel about your team on a communal level? Are you all different? Are you similar? How does it feel in a sense that you're all pretty much together to have a common cause, learning and doing everything together?
Yeah, we have a community feeling, but actually just today we talked about this community feeling and how it's different from each team member. And like some parts of the team really appreciate that community feeling, and for some it's more in education. So that's also a big team process for us at the moment, like how to sculpt our team. But I definitely feel like I've landed in a community.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure really how to put it yet, because it's always transforming.
Yeah.
And it's something that's up to each team. I'm also sure if we talked about your team and my team, it will be totally different. And like do's and don'ts in your teams and my team are probably also different.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how every team kind of has to build their own culture.
Yeah.
And the first year is pretty much essential for that process.
It is.
And I think that there's a lot of love and passion throughout the first months and figuring out who you are sometimes, because it is indeed a transformative experience.
It is, for sure.
And can you tell me a little bit about, now you just finalized a project, correct?
Yeah.
That is the enterprising project.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I mean, let me start at the beginning. Like before I applied to KP, I made this project called Rabona Globe with my friend, and we talked about creating a football school in Tanzania. And that was sort of the first step of me applying to the KP, because I saw some connections between that project and also the KP institution, and what I could learn and how I could use that project for the application at first, but also within the education. And then, as you said, then we got to the enterprising project in February, and I teamed up with Sharad from my team. And we decided to take on this project of creating a football school in Tanzania. And I'm sure that we'll go further into it later in the podcast, but I mean, it's really been a journey. Ups and downs and so many learnings. And like, here we are like a month from the final day of the football school, but still so many reflections that I haven't even processed yet.
Yeah, I think digesting is quite classic to take its time.
Yeah.
In the environment we're in. But I'm very curious, like super curious, how did you end up with that idea to go to Africa and start working in that local community? Or please tell me a little bit about it. What made this start?
Yeah, it started during my sabbatical years, because I went to Africa, like the traditional story about like going out to explore the world. And I did these fundraising campaigns that went really well, and that's also why I'm wearing the local AGF team today, because they were a big part of that, like starting that journey of that project. And then when I got home from the 4 months, it was more or less in Tanzania. I couldn't let it go, it was fun for me to do the projects, but it was also like so touching to see the difference that it hopefully made in some families or people's lives down there. And then I was in Mexico City on another sabbatical year journey, and I was just chatting with my friend about like we could make a football school down here and like make an actual difference football-wise, because these kids were not allowed to play football in the ways that we have been allowed to play. And then I got into the KP team, and you like, I'm sure you also did, like you instantly spot like the people that you have a connection with. And I started talking about the project, and like Casper and Gerard, they said like, oh yeah, it could be fun. And then they joined the project, and then we've been working on it like once a week for a couple of months, and then it was so nice for us to have the opportunity to do the EP project, because then we had a month and a half where we could work full time on the project.
Yeah. And what have you done? Like, what is the purpose of this entire thing that you're doing?
I think the purpose, I mean, we have this quote that we work around and often refer to as like allowing people to dream. And it's maybe a bit tacky. It's also a bit complex to explain, but I have this feeling inside me that something that it has made my life easier has been to be able to go to sleep at night, like dreaming about being a football player in the Premier League. And I think I've been allowed to do that because of the training sessions, the trainers I've had here in Denmark, and like also the connection, like with wearing proper football clothes and having the boots. And that was something I saw, the desire to play football in Tanzania, but not those maybe materialistic things, but also like the coach and the pitch and stuff. So our dream, and it still is because we haven't finalized the project at all yet, but is to take those materialistic things, but also those dreams to the kids in Tanzania. I'm sure they have them, but also to maybe make it more outspoken.
Yeah. That's actually very inspiring. I think that's such a good quote to even have in such a difficult or maybe different cultural context as they're in compared to us. It kind of speaks a little bit about privilege as well. Now where we are in the Danish context. How often have you been there? Have you been traveling often?
I've only been to Tanzania twice. But we're still hoping to go again next year. But also I would like to say about that process, about saying, allowing people to dream. That's a big statement to me, and it's something I've been like made aware of while being a KP and while having these conversations with our team leaders and our team, because sort of also how I started was I liked the approach of being naive going into the project.
Right.
But then again, also being made aware, like you have to know the context that you're working in. I mean, how can you say allowing people to dream?
Wow.
How do I dare to do that actually? And also like understanding a historical context. So that's also something KP has taught me, like it's nice that you want to change the world and like do like a positive change, but like understand the context and who are you.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's something I'm still working on, and I'll never finish it, will never finish it. But it's something to be aware of.
It's very powerful. I would say that I've never asked myself that question until KAOSPILOT myself.
Yeah.
Like to that extent, where you're just kind of grinding on trying to figure out who you are, and wow, it's very inspiring. The whole thing about trying to also like having that in the back of your head to change the world in a positive way. So you were there now for a couple months, and then you arrived back.
Actually, we were only there for 10 days. That was also the obstacle of our project, because we went into it without knowing the EP project was an opportunity for Rabona Club, our organization. But I myself also, like, when I see an opportunity or if I want something, I need to do it like straight away. So in September, we just booked the flights and thought, okay, we can fit it in with the school, so we will be there during the Easter break, and then we'll come back and take our lectures and stuff like that. And then we realized the opportunity to do the EP on it. So that was also maybe interesting in a KP perspective, also to do a project so far away, but from Denmark, and then going there for only 10 days.
Yeah.
And then continuing the project.
Can you kind of help me visualize? So what is happening there? Are you doing this with a school, or is it this football club specifically, or how did you get in touch with them to even?
Yeah, I mean, that was the school I worked with during my sabbatical year and the journey I had down there. And then I became friends with the owners of the organization that we have a partnership with in Tanzania. And then, I mean, that's also the funny part of the story, is that this has been made possible by WhatsApp conversations and like very down to earth stuff. And then we've just kept in contact and kept like this friendship partnership, which is very fragile, but also powerful, I would say. But yeah, through that, we have just arranged that where like during the Easter break, the kids were supposed to go home. But then we arranged a week of what we hope to be fun. And then we went to Tanzania. We stayed at a hotel and we went to the school every day. And through like donations from private Danish people and professional football clubs, we had received a lot of equipment that we could make the actual physical football school with.
Yeah. What impact did you pursue with this? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I had to research a little bit before this podcast just to see what the website looks like.
Yeah.
And I was like really impressed seeing a bunch of kids with jerseys, and obviously they were like brand new.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I wanted to ask like what kind of impact you also pursued with this whole thing.
With the football school?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, me and Gerard, we were like, during the EP period, we were talking a lot, and like, that's also like a thing we learned during the KP education, like, why are we actually doing this? And we actually had to sit down and ask ourselves, why are we arranging a football school in Tanzania for children? Because we couldn't answer it straight away. But I mean, the overall thing was, of course, to have fun. And like, that's a very easy statement to make. We want the kids to have fun, but we also wanted to go into this football school being humble. So we wanted them to have fun, and then sort of it being a prototype for our organization, so we could learn from that and build on from that and know what to do in upcoming projects and knowing what to do and what not to do. So this time it was to have fun for the kids, but research for us also.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think we have achieved that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So you said you also wanted to research yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, what did you find?
What did we find? A lot of inspiration, I would say. And what kind of inspiration? I'm sure you wanted to ask me about. I think we found that we don't want to do a one-time thing, because this football school is like, it's gone. It's the way, it's only memories now. It's pictures and it's memories, and maybe it's the t-shirts for the kids. But we want to make a long-lasting change. Not change, but a long-lasting project in Tanzania. And something where we could actually, of course, it will require a lot of work. But when that work is done, and that's maybe 5, 10, 20 years in the future, but then we can actually say like, okay, now this is in Tanzania, and now we're in Denmark, and both things are running themselves. Like, we have our thing, and now this thing is created in Tanzania, and it's up for the people in Tanzania to do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was challenging in the process of navigating also an education and also traveling, and also having that obviously in the back of your head that there is a community also kind of like sitting in the school perhaps. And I'm just wondering, what was challenging going back and forth as well to a certain degree in terms of having that process? I mean, obviously you said you only traveled once after in the enterprising project in that period. But I'm wondering, like, you had to also travel and come back. And obviously tonight we also want to talk about traveling and learning.
Yeah.
And it has something to do with switching contexts. And what did you find challenging about that?
There's, of course, a lot of planning. So we had to deliver the project and also prepare for the exam while being in Tanzania. But in terms, like, are you thinking about, like, how to travel during the KP education? Like, what are the obstacles there?
I think it's more about, so you have a project that is sort of in a place that is in a a bit far from where your context is.
Mm.
And you're planning for it and then you deliver it for 10 days.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty much, that's what I really want to find out is kind of like the process of also traveling, learning, and what did you find challenging about that? Perhaps about the planning and schedules.
Yeah.
And also a little bit of facilitating whatever you were doing because you had a bunch of collaborators and stakeholders and
Yeah. I mean, it was very difficult to base a whole project in a whole football school for around 100 kids based on assumptions. And assumptions I made 1.5 years earlier. And also for me to tell about these assumptions to a team of 8 people from Denmark and Spain that traveled with us to Tanzania. And then going there also having planned the whole football school through a WhatsApp conversations with the people in Tanzania. And then meeting all of these obstacles, like for example, in Tanzania, they changed the school year schedule all the time, apparently. And so when we first planned to go there during that period, the kids were supposed to be in school, which was very good for us because then we had them in school and we could like take each class out for small sessions of football. But now they changed it, so they're actually supposed to go on holidays. And so the school didn't have money for taking the kids to school by school bus or paying for their lunch. And we came down there Thursday night and they told us about this. So we had to raise a lot of money. And luckily we also know about the power of Facebook and Instagram and asking people for help. And it went like how it was supposed to. So that was a big challenge as well. But again, basing on assumptions, that's also what we learned in KP, like never do that.
Well, I think that testing your assumptions is really like something that we talk a lot about.
Yeah.
And assumptions are good. I think it has a level of also like a reflectiveness that we bring forward and we want to see, just test what's going to happen. I think personally, even for me, in my case, in my project, that's a very, very much like the core line that really differentiates growing and maybe not, because I'm like, I want to test that assumption to see if this can grow into something.
That is true. That's true.
Yeah.
And
But
maybe you sound like a person that has read like the Lean Startup also, because I'm very inspired by that book. And I mean, I think the thing to be aware of in our case is that we're working with people and we're taking 5 days out of people's life to do something based on our assumptions. But I agree with you, like you have an assumption and you have to test it.
Yeah.
You don't have to like make that assumption perfect and then test it and then fail.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think failing is probably, I don't want to say the best thing that can happen, but you know what I mean? I feel like failing actually like helps you build up the next step.
Yeah.
And at least that's what I've kind of extracted out of most of my projects that maybe didn't pan out perfectly as I hoped.
Yeah.
And yeah. What skills and qualities do you think are sort of most important to have a successful enterprising project?
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to ask that question because I'm not sure that our project was a successful project, but a lot of planning and a lot of planning before the project. But also if you're working like with another person, you really have to know that person. And of course you need to focus on your project, but you also need to learn who the person you're working with really are. I mean, and also you're going to be in situations that are very difficult and where you're like smacking each other's heads. So it's about giving each other space and allowing each other to grow in like each individual role for the purpose of the project. I would say that was what me and Gerard, we learned during the project. But planning, I would say.
Yeah. How was that collaboration like between two people sharing?
And the funny story about this, so sorry for interrupting, but the funny story about this is we started the project February 20th. The 1st of February, Gerard moved into my apartment. So we were literally like, I'm living here, he's living here. So every morning we went into our living room, worked from 9 to 4, and then we had to like leave the project because we still had our lives within that apartment. And we had that for a month and a half, and then we went to Tanzania together as well. So we had to really give each other space and private life, and also in the weekends, leave the project. Because maybe Sharad was thinking about the project when I was thinking about AGF or something else. And then we needed to give each other space and really honor those hours from 9 to 4. That was for Bono Globe hours.
I think that's such a valid point, because in KAOSPILOT, a lot of the times, a lot of people live with their classmates. Even personally, I have that situation as well. I live with also a classmate of mine, which is, there's an element of also figuring out what privacy is with that person and establishing this trust that obviously we don't want to violate that. So I think that's it's one of the classic ways of KAOSPILOT collaborations, actually.
That's
so
also, that's so powerful. Also, like, I've been talking with people outside the community about the living situation within the KP community, and it's just so powerful. If I were to like be like kicked out of my apartment tonight, I would be sure that the KP community would lift me up and I would have a bed within 1 or 2 hours. And it's just that's a very powerful thing, I think.
I think it's really rare, but it is very true.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, can I ask you, what would be a valuable takeaway from your journey from Denmark to Africa, coming back? Switching contexts.
Yeah, I would say like understanding the context that you're working in. But also, and this is maybe me going a little bit to the edge because I don't know a lot about it and I'm ready to be proven wrong, but understanding the context, but not letting it define your work. And I'm saying this referring to the African context and the Tanzanian context, because we're also going there as Europeans. We could easily come out as better knowing or saying like, this is how we do in Europe, or this is how we do in Denmark, this is how you should do it.
Yeah.
And we're very aware of that. But also we should know about the history between Europe and Africa. But what we talked about, Sharad and I, was that we really also have to be aware of it, but not letting it define our project, because then we will be walking on eggshells the entire time.
Yeah. That's very interesting, because I think that shows a level of awareness also of being in a different continent, and specifically with a continent that has this entirely different, I'm not going to say only history, but also completely different way of behaving, so to speak, and also way of being. I've seen a lot of lovely videos actually from the football club. I was just checking it in YouTube as well. And I was just very, very surprised how beautiful it looks. And there's a lot of passion. And yeah, I think that's very interesting. I wanted to ask, what advice would you give for someone who wants to maybe follow your steps, maybe go ahead and explore a project in Tanzania or in Africa, perhaps for a project, maybe not, but just basically going out and trying something new, creating something new?
Creating something new. I mean, I would say it's a tacky quote, but always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That was sort of our step, also because the way we planned it. But I would say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but also really just plan, and research and know your partner if you are like doing a group project. And I know it's probably not the best advices, but it's that simple. I mean, plan, I would say.
Yeah. No, I think that it's a very good advice, because it takes a very large part of it takes a lot of planning to actually execute something like this, going abroad and learning. I think for myself, going into Outpost, almost everything felt a little bit challenging in the start, and figuring out where am I going to live, who's going to be around me, and also trying to investigate the neighborhoods and okay, this is where maybe I don't want to be, or this is where I want to be.
Yeah,
I think it's very interesting that indeed planning can help you shift into that different context.
but also probably also this will resonate with you, but also from the KP institution, like the power of why when doing a project. I feel like these last few months I've just been like reminded so many times, why are you doing this? Why are people in Tanzania supposed to go to this football school, or why in your project? The power of why is really saying for my 10 months, here at the KP. Also, like speaking about our lectures. I mean, we have like you also had it probably like the dancing lectures or the singing lectures, and like, why the fuck am I like waking up early Monday morning to go to KP and dance?
Yeah.
I mean, but I think like when you ask this why, it becomes so more powerful, and you can see the meaning behind it.
Oh, since you're in the hot chair, what is your why?
Oh, oh yeah, I'm really.
You got yourself into this.
Yeah, I know. My why, and I'm like, why for being a KP student? I think I'm a KP student because of the freedom the education allows me to have.
Yeah.
That's probably my why, the freedom.
The freedom.
The freedom and all, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there are definitely elements of freedom that you get in the context that it has, and the relationships you have.
Yeah. What about your why? I'm interested now.
Ooh. Yeah. I kind of saw that coming. Well, quite honestly, I think my why is because my background is in nursing.
Yeah.
So I have done, I would say I've tremendously respected helping people.
Yeah.
And I think entering into nursing, my why was because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
That was my goal. And now that I have transitioned into KAOSPILOT, I think I entered with the idea I am going to help people who help people.
Okay.
Because most of my projects now are specifically in, well, I'm trying to figure out leadership. I'm trying to understand what that is like. And my last project was really about the leadership team in a hospital department. So that is when I really utilized that idea that I want to help people who help people.
Yeah. Okay.
By just putting myself in a situation where I have some sort of impact on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also the thing about like being a KP. You hear about these projects from different people. I mean, like right now I want to set up like a coffee date with you, like to hear like helping people help. I mean, it's so fucking interesting. I mean, and you'll meet that every day at KP. But I mean, like you run out of money if you have to go on like coffee or for beer or hear about everyone's projects. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I think if there was a chance that you could speed date everyone, like in a very much of an interesting context to get to know everybody as well, because everybody brings different thoughts, different ideas, and I think the community itself inspires you to figure out more alternatives for your growth.
Yeah.
And how like you can get inspired in a way that you can grow even in a different way when somebody just says something and that sparks an idea of something that you want to do, and then you ask them, do you want to join me? And they're like, yeah, let's go. Like, and it's, there's such passion and such agreeableness.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I've found so far being in this, 2-year journey for me so far, and going now to third, pretty much. Yeah. Are you excited for joining into the second year and seeing what's there for you?
I'm excited, but also cautious about it because we're going on an outpost.
Yeah.
And I don't know the why behind the outpost yet, but I'll look into it. But I mean, on a personal level, it's quitting your apartment, it's leaving your girlfriend in Aarhus, it's quitting your job, blah, blah, blah. 3 months in Lisbon, which I'm being told by the KP institution to do.
Yeah.
But I think once I'm in Lisbon, then it will be happy times. But also I'm respectful about what I'm leaving behind here in Aarhus. And then there's the placement project in January, I think, which you just did. And that's also something already to think about. I mean, we have Lisbon, but then like, what the hell am I going to do in the placement project? I'm so excited for that project.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, and I have so many ideas, but you need to grab one of the ideas and make it work.
Yeah. I think that as this podcast is a little bit about, when we touched it, so you're going on an outpost and there's going to be traveling and learning. And I mean, that's the purpose as well of the outpost, to go there as a team and create an organization out of this, which is, yeah, I mean, being in the shoes of someone who's done that, you're in for a treat. I mean, it's gonna be awesome. I mean, essentially, it's a good process. But I know, as you said, planning is essential.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
So get used to that, I guess.
Yeah. It will be hectic. Also, it's just 3 months. I mean, it will be over before we landed, I think. Maybe that's also like your reflections about Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing time, but that finished and something else started, and now we're moving into completely something else soon.
Yeah.
So it's quite, it almost feels like it's a dream being throughout these years, because it's like sometimes you look back and you can't recall exactly what happened, but you know, like it was full of intention at that moment. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any last thoughts? Anything about Africa or Tanzania or what you did that you want to share with us?
Go follow our Instagram page.
Yeah,
I would say that. I have to brand it here in the end, but yeah, that will be probably it. Yeah.
Awesome. I think where can we find more information about it?
We have our website, which is rabonaglobe.com, and then we have the Instagram Rabonaglobe, and we'll be posting there like once in the now and then hopefully do more projects that you can follow.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast episode with Johan from Team 29, where we talked about traveling and learning and pretty much his journey in Africa and helping a football club. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we're going to be discovering different journeys with alumni, students, and staff. Thank you.